Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Show. I'm your host tonight, Jack, and today we have a very special guest, Thomas D. Davenport Jr., a local attorney who has taken a stand against the alleged fraudulent building practices by the City of Alexandria. Tommy has filed complaints with the Louisiana State Police, Louisiana Attorney General, the Louisiana Office of Inspector General, and the Alexandria City Council, who acts as our Public Service Commission. We're here to discuss these important issues and what they mean for our community. Before we begin, I want to remind all of our followers to share and engage with our content and live broadcast to help educate and inform the community. Your support is vital to our mission. Tommy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on your show. I am from Alexandria. With the exception of my service in the Navy and college and law school, I've lived in Alexandria. I'm a practicing lawyer. I represent people for the most part, and I'm also a professor at Southern University Law Center.
All right. Okay. Can you start off? Let's just go ahead and dive right deep down into everything. Tommy, can you give us a brief overview of the situation that led you to file these complaints with these government agencies?
Absolutely. So Thursday afternoon, I'm at my office working with a client and actually the state police on an issue, and my wife contacts me. She tells me that a truck pulled up at our home. Two men got out. They were not wearing a uniform. They went into our backyard, left, and our whole house standby generator kicked on. So initially, I thought I had I have a service contract on my generator, and I thought maybe the company came out to tune up the generator. So I called that gentleman, and he said, "No, I didn't come out to your house." So it turned out the City of Alexandria sent these individuals to my home to disconnect my utilities. So we call the utility office, and we're told that I have not paid my bill. The problem with that statement is I have not received a bill since March. And of course, on the bill that I did receive, I paid it. So what we did is we made an online account through the city, and the records absolutely showed, and I have them, no bill was even created after March 22nd. So what I did at that point, we were given two amounts from the city, and we paid the highest amount. Then the next day, when I had more time, because I wasn't on the horns of the dilemma on Friday, I called the city and confirmed this information. And of course, we received a different story, and that was that no bills were created. On Thursday, the city claimed that the problem is with the post office, that I'm just not getting my mail. And as you know, I'm going to take this, I'm going to hold the city to that. And on July 17th, I'm filing a complaint with the postmaster. And we will see. But I do believe, in fact, I know the bills just weren't created. So the city's not creating bills, and you can't send what you don't create. That's what has brought this on.
So what specific issue did you encounter with the City of Alexandria, the building practice itself? What issue? Dive deep down into it.
Well, to me, the issue seems to be the city is not creating bills.
Right.
There's no way, even if I had created an online account and an auto pay system before last week, which I have been very reluctant to do because I just don't trust the city to manage this properly. The bills are not getting created. They're not getting created. And I don't speak for anyone else, but my bills over the years have they swing dramatically, which is ridiculous. It's not like a car note or a student loan note that remains pretty much the same. It's all over the place. So I depend and expect the city to send a bill for what they claim is owed. I also believe, based on the conversations we've had with the city, that the city has spent more time training its staff on how to avoid telling the truth than telling the truth. If the city would have just said, Tommy, hey, we made a mistake here. We didn't send the bills and we're working on that, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. This might not be an issue. But if the city lied to me, they're going to lie to all of us.
Right.
And what really bothers me about this, Jack, is, and as you saw in my letter, I'm in a position in my life to where I can pay what they demand.
Right.
And the strange thing is, since Thursday, I have paid the city over $1,600.
Huh.
And every morning I check the account and the city claims I still owe them over $1,000.
But I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. But what you are describing at this point, Tommy, is something that, for various other reasons, and maybe folk couldn't explain it last year, but you heard this repetitively last year about this same time, this problem over and over and over, and happening over and over and over with various people. Especially, you have somewhat of a very normal utility bill without the restore portion built into it. So you could only imagine what the majority of the people in this community were experiencing with the restore portion of the bill added to even further complicate the matter. And I've heard so many people just say, I'm just giving up. What do I owe? And I think, that's most people feel that I gotta have my utilities, and I don't have no choice. What can I do but just go pay, just give these people some money, literally. And that's and basically that's what's been happening. I mean, time and time and time again, it's been the same thing over and over. This show is about you. Tommy, you mentioned in your complaint that no bill for April, May, and June were sent. When did you first become aware of this issue, Tommy?
When those gentlemen sneaked on my property,
okay,
and cut the power off and didn't leave any notice, documentation, nothing. Which I have to tell you, and I hope those gentlemen are listening. This is a good way for someone to get hurt. This town is chock full of crime, and people love to steal copper. You're going to come on someone's property unannounced. That is a good way to get injured. And then what really bothers me is, see, I have this sense to where I worry about my community.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone is able to get out and fight the city like I feel like I am. There are elderly people. There are sickly people. There are people who require electricity to live. People have electricity running refrigerators to keep medicine cool, keep their medical apparatuses running, and the city just comes along. We're going to cut your power. We're not going to tell you about it. We're not going to send you a bill. That is cruel. That is cruel. And my point earlier was, I keep sending money to the city, and no matter how much I send, it's not enough. They tell me an amount, I pay it. The next day, it's a new amount. I pay it. Then the next day, it's a new amount. What bothers me about that is, 2 weeks ago, I went by a lemonade stand that was run by a 7-year-old girl. And this 7-year-old child of God was able to tell me that she wanted 50 cents for a glass of lemonade. This 7-year-old child has figured out what the city cannot do. Tell me how much is owed and for what.
That's right.
It's not complicated.
No,
It happens every day. You go to Dairy Queen, you want a chocolate cone, they will tell you how much it is. If you want the sprinkles, it's 5 cents, 10 cents extra. They can tell you. The city cannot tell you what you owe them.
Yeah, you bring up a very good point there. You know, it's just like when you go to McDonald's and you use your credit card, debit card, or whatever, and you get an immediate message that you just spent $4.58 and your account is less $4.58. But with the City of Alexandria, you go pay your utility bill, and it may be a day, you know, depending on when you did it. You know, it batch processes. You know, technology that's 1980s, 90s kind of technology, and then it processes. You know, you follow me there. So today, it just makes you wonder, you know, what happened to that IT department, or do we have one, or do we have adequate people in it that's governing? I think let's not. This is about you. I don't want to get into that IT world right now.
Well, I think it's about us, and I think the real question is why.
Yeah.
Why would a bank not want you to pay off what you owe? Why would anybody? I'm gonna tell you right now, you go ahead and put it on the record, right? If you owe me money, please come pay me. Thank you. Please come pay me. Thank you. I have not ever, and I've been to different countries. I've been all over the nation. This is the only place I have ever been where somebody can't tell me this is what you owe me and thank you.
And thank you.
And the question becomes, why? I have been thinking about this. Why does the city not want you to know what you owe? And I have come down to two theories. I don't claim to be the smartest person in the world, right? So my theory is up for debate. One, they are chaotically incompetent and cannot do it. That's the second theory. Mm-hmm. The first theory is if they don't know what they owe, we get to control them. We get to do what we want with them. Now, years ago, we had the same problem with the city, but it involved permits. Permits. Oh my God. You want to paint your house? Permit. You want a dog? Permit. And the permitting process was weaponized. It clearly was. I mean, that's my opinion, folks. I mean, I'm an American. I get to have an opinion. And now I'm starting to think with all this, it's weaponized. I am investigating this case and I'm looking at it. And we know Mr. Roy, we know some of his cronies, and I intend to find out, are they having this problem, or is it just those who are not on the correct side of the politics? And let's just face it. Unfortunately, my work has taken me to be crosswise with the Roy administration. There have been times I have been crosswise with Mr. Roy directly over a particular case. In fact, I'll go on and say it. The case involved Mr. Roy getting tapped on his shoulder, you remember, by a senior citizen. And he got so embarrassed and so hurt that this elderly lady did that and did this to him. He had her arrested. And I want to thank Mr. Roy for that because of that case and my success in that case, I actually won a Blackstone Award from the Louisiana Criminal Defense Lawyers Association. Now, I'm not saying because of all those actions that that's why I'm experiencing this trouble. That's why my family was without electricity. But I can't really find a good faith reason as to why this has happened. And not just to me, but I mean, I've received many calls from other people. And some of them are pretty sad, Jack. One of them, this individual actually just left the city because of the utility practices. Obviously, some people are having it better than others, and I don't know why, but I certainly want to find that out.
Well, I think when you keep asking that why question, I think one of the things that you really drive down into in that why concept is, you know, you just ask yourself, I just began following the money. And when you start to follow the money, you start to quickly see that the majority of the monies that the city collect is coming from utilities, not property taxes, not sales taxes, and that kind of thing. And so we have a serious dependency on the profits from the sale, or earnings, if you want to get technically correct, the earnings after expenses are paid. We end up transferring tons of that money into, uh, you know, turning it into paying for X, Y, and Z. And when you think about that, and we don't value that whole concept of small businesses and businesses, property taxes and different things of that nature to operate our city, we can use that power and control structure a whole lot more, especially when that power and control is being exerted on the marginalized community within your community. That same community where you exerted that those strong policies and procedures, along with the permitting processes and different things of that nature. And so, it becomes weaponized. But it's interesting that, it's those people that are paying the disproportionate amount in the utility bill. And Tommy, I did look at your utility bills and things of that nature. I think it would have been a lot of the older folk who are on fixed incomes that would have loved to have your utility bill. And what you really get down to seeing is when you start to see people with $7, $8, $9, $12, $1,300 per month utility bills month after month, and the utility bill is damn near 100% of their monthly income. And so, that's where the egregious problem become. And these are the people that are really paying for all of this, the services that the city offer to the general population. Because when you start looking at those issues, you begin to see, what's really going on there. And that's when you start really getting to that why in that utility system. When you start thinking about, the Tommy, let me get back to you, because there's probably another conversation here. But answering that why, that need to be discussed as well. What are we doing with all of the damn profits from the sale of utilities? Perhaps that's the reason why we won't share the budget with us anymore. Perhaps that's why we don't share the supporting documents that go along with the agenda and different things of that nature. So perhaps we're hiding something. I don't know.
Well, Jack, you bring up an excellent point. I mean, it's obvious the city does make quite the profit on the electricity.
Mm-hmm.
As a business owner, I can promise you, on the business that generates the most profit, you usually tend to give it the most care.
Mm.
And it seems it doesn't seem, it is to me, the city has very little care in the service that it is providing. This is not the first problem that I've had with the city in the utility department. Mm-hmm. Not even a year ago in November, I received a $1,500 water bill. Wow. For 20 days of usage. And I call the city, and the first thing that the people say is, well, sir, you have a water leak under your house. Now, I wondered how many times that probably worked. But I want you to think about that. If I would have believed and trusted the city officials, something I don't do, but if I did, and I decided to call a plumber to get out from, get under my home to try to find this so-called water leak, there's no telling how many tens of thousands of dollars that would have cost. But suppose I paid that. The answer was there was no leak. The city came out and replaced a meter and didn't have the integrity or the wherewithal to set the meter where it needed to be, where the other one left off.
Hmm.
They replaced the meter and they didn't reset it. So they were just gonna, we're just gonna take $1,500 from you, Davenport. We're just, because we can.
Yeah.
So the way I'm kind of starting to feel about this now, the city's number one moneymaker is utility department.
Right. Right.
They're not giving us the service we need.
Right. Right.
It really is no different than the bully on the schoolyard saying, "Give me your lunch money," because what else can you do?
Absolutely.
Well, I love dealing with bullies. Every man needs a hobby.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people. I'm gonna wrap back around this at the end. But what next? A lot of people are hearing us talking right now, and what next, Tommy? And we're gonna wrap that we're gonna come back to that at the end. But what next? What do people need to be thinking about now? Do they need to be thinking about? Let's start pooling all of this information together. Is there one place that people can go to and say, okay, here's what I have as the issue. I want to let you know what my issue is, and that kind of thing. Is there something like that you're trying to achieve?
Yes, there is, and it happened out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
When I called Thursday, I called Chuck Fowler, who's supposed to be my city council person.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him about this, and I said, well, maybe somebody needs to file a complaint with the Public Service Commission. He said, oh, no, they have no jurisdiction over us, which, was somewhat of a dog whistle that we can do what we want.
Mm-hmm.
So then it occurred to me, okay, well, if that's how it is, and they certainly act as though that's how it is,
mm-hmm.
it hit me. Because of similar abuses in billing and collection practices, the United States government created a law called the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act.
Okay.
And it requires that there not be deception whenever a creditor is pursuing a debt from a debtor. And there are certain things that law requires. We are looking into this. I am looking, I'm having, if someone has claims like this, they're welcome to contact my office, because what we're seeing two different kinds of cases so far. Mm-hmm. There may be instances where people are not receiving bills, but the city is holding them accountable.
Right.
That's going to be one class of cases. And I think we're going to end up filing a federal lawsuit over this.
Okay.
The second one is people are what I'm hearing is that the city is estimating bills. Okay, which is dangerous. When you go to a grocery store and you buy 2 pounds of bananas or apples or whatever it is, can you imagine the cashier saying, well, I'm going to eyeball it and it looks like 5 pounds? That's what they're doing. So what I would encourage people to do is request the readings from the meter and compare that to your bills. If there is a discrepancy that is not favorable to you, if it is, then that's the city's problem. But if it's not favorable to you, I'm looking at this as potential theft, but definitely consumer fraud. So if that is happening to people, get your records. You're entitled to it. The city's going to say you're not, but you are under the law. You can request it and obtain it. And if it's a problem, let us know. Because I think we're going to have that second class of cases. I want to help people. There are attorneys in this community who I've spoken to, and we're developing a team to pursue these matters. Okay. And that's the only way. I mean, look, the thing with the water, Jack, I sent a complaint to the city in November and I asked for an investigation. And if I heard something about it, you have. So that tells me the city council is not able or willing to do anything about it.
Absolutely.
I take no pleasure in saying that, but if they could, they would have.
That's right.
I really have very little expectation in hearing from anything on this one as well. So the only remedy people have when you experience an injustice is to go to court. Now, if it turns out state police investigate it and they make a finding, then the state police can deal with that. But the state police is not going to go out and get refunds for people and give it to them. They never have. They won't. I mean, that's
right.
But I'm willing to sit down and spend the time to do this, because I have to say, I didn't know how bad this problem was. The calls, the messages, the contacts that we're receiving, it's kind of sick.
But
it really is. It's sick.
Yeah, but it's real when you say, nearly 8,000 or over 8,000 people's utilities were interrupted last year alone. Houston, you got a problem if that's happening. It's not just that many people that, just not paying their bill. Houston, you have some sort of a problem. And not taking on and trying to figure out what those problems are is just bizarre to me. In your opinion, Tommy, what is the most concerning aspect of these alleged of fraudulent practices?
That the city makes a profit off of their own incompetence.
Wow.
Because see, what's happening is the city is making a profit whenever they don't send a bill and they disconnect you. You have to pay a fee to get reconnected.
Right.
So my dog's getting upset at somebody. Maybe the utility's outside, but he's my customer service representative for the moment. But I mean, that's a hard way to answer that. But the most concerning thing that I see is when people make a mistake and they happen to make a profit off of that mistake.
Mm-hmm.
It's been my experience, it's almost always fraud. I call that a profitable mistake, right? I mean,
yeah.
And I'm bitter with them. I mean, I am. So maybe some of that seething out. I leave room for that, but
right.
But the city certainly didn't come along and ask, well, how is this going to affect your family? People are struggling right now. That's all you hear in the news. Oh, the economy is this. Some people say it's great. Some say it's bad. I don't know about the national economy, but people are struggling here. So you go to Walmart. $20. You used to be able to get a grocery cart with somewhat full. And now that won't get you anything, but you go and you get a couple $100 worth of groceries, you put them in your refrigerator, you go to work, and it turns out somebody done snuck over to your house and cut off your power because you didn't get a bill. Well, not only are you out of that power, you got to pay the fees to get reconnected. Your food is probably spoiled, and so is your medicine. A young lady contacted us, same thing. She didn't get bills for months. City comes along, boom, cuts her off. She didn't have the money to pay the astronomical amount they wanted, so she had to get her baby, an infant, and is living in a hotel. Because somebody with the city couldn't figure out, okay, Davenport owed this for this month, send him a bill.
Let me hang, Tommy. I thought I was going to be able to get through all of these questions, and here we are on 30 minutes. You okay with time over there?
I'm not billing you by the hour on this one, Jack. We're old friends just talking, okay?
All right. How has the response from the authorities, the Louisiana State Police, Attorney Generals, the Inspector General? Have you gotten any responses back there?
Not yet. Now, everything was put in the mail on Monday.
Oh, okay.
Maybe they hadn't received it yet.
Okay. All right. So it's kind of early on that. So all of this is happening relatively quick. Okay. What kind of impact has this situation had on you personally and professionally, if any?
Well, professionally, it's I want to use my skills to help anybody who is getting victimized in this way. Personally, I just keep thinking, I wasn't born a lawyer, Jack. I've had a pretty incredible life story, and there was a time, a long time in my life, to where, I struggled. And if somebody with the city would have said, well, we're cutting your power off unless you come up with, $500, I just wouldn't have had the power. I just wouldn't have had the electricity for a while. And I think that's what's happening is the city is withholding bills to the point to where people just cannot tackle it. Now, the strange thing that also bothered me, and I don't know if I mentioned this, since Thursday, the city has given me 7 different amounts of what is owed. 7. Now, let's break that down. If a bill would have been created in April and sent as they claimed, that amount would be set in stone. It'd be black and white, as we say. It'd be right there. It wouldn't be subject to variation. Same for May. But without these bills, all I have is the city has now given me 7 different amounts. Now, I'm going to tell you the strategy that I employed here. The city gave me 2 different amounts. I paid the highest. The next day, they give me 3 different amounts. I paid the highest. As of this moment I'm talking to you, since I have sent the city over $1,600, you got to hear this. They tell me I have a credit of $600, but I somehow still owe them $1,040. Now, it's been a long time. Lawyers aren't that great with math, but I do remember in 4th grade, Mrs. Nichols told us that if you take the negative from the positive and you have a difference. So if I have when I say a negative amount, the city owes me $600. I don't know. Maybe I need to send all these bills to a math professor at Southern to help me figure it out. But I know I don't live in a mansion. I know people like to think lawyers live. No, we're average middle class people. My house is 1,742 square feet. I am not using that much utility. I'm just not.
Well, it's really interesting. I'm pretty sure that there is definitely a professor over there in TTL Lane, because the law center is just right around the block from the law school and what have you. So when you're down there, just go ahead and get one of them to look. But I'm pretty sure they're gonna just give up. They're gonna just throw it out and just say this is too big of a headache to even begin to try to figure it out. You said something just a few seconds ago, Tommy, and it had to do with the idea I have the means to pay for this stuff that's just keep changing on me. But when you look at almost 55% of the people in the city of Alexandria can't make ends meet monthly, just think about them dealing with this. Just think about the stress that they have to be going through right now, with such that type of a mentality coming from the city of Alexandria, and just trying to figure out how they're going to keep those kids cool and all of that kind of good stuff throughout the summer. You are fortunate enough to have the means, but they don't, man. And so that's what even make this problem even worse. And
you're right, Jack. And I want to tell you about that. When I finished the Navy, I came back here, right? And I went to LSUA for a year. LSUA paid me to work at the food bank. So for about a year, I worked at the food bank. And the food bank would deliver, at that time, I don't know if it's 30 or 50 pounds of food to a senior citizen who was in need. I got to see the poorest of the poor, and that's a core memory for me.
Right.
I can see in my mind's eye some very horrible, terrible situations with people, and they're on fixed income.
Right.
They're just not. So I think it's cruel. I know it's cruel to hold people's bills to let it become unattainable. If this was a bank and it was your mortgage, it would be called predatory.
That's right.
But the city does it, and in fact, as far as I know, the city just kind of denies that it happens. And excuse my co-star, this is Marcy. She
Hi, Marcy. Marcy, you're on UrbanCast, and we're okay with Marcy's joining us.
Good, thank you. As her agent will discuss her compensation, it's probably going to be a Tootsie Pop or something. Okay.
Oh, okay.
But you're right, and as I said, I wasn't an attorney. I wasn't born that way, so I've struggled too. I've struggled, and look, life's not easy all the time for a lawyer, right? I mean, it's just not. I mean, there's a lot of cases I just take on and don't even charge people. But putting that aside, that's a matter of privilege. I recognize that. Right. And there's so many around us, they just can't. And then as hot as it is, I mean, we're in a heat wave right now. Absolutely. Everybody's air conditioner is running totally. Right. They're going to have these astronomical bills. They can't do it. And then you tack on these junk fees and so forth. It's insane. You would think the government would want to help people, not hurt them. And this is hurting people.
Right. Have you been in, have you, I know we kind of talked about it, but specifically, have you been in contact with other residents who have experienced your issue? I know you talked about 2 classifications of cases that you have, but have you had some that had exactly similar issues to what you have described?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. And I mean, just absolutely. I've had a number of people contact me, as an attorney. So I can't disclose names at this point, but
right.
I am truly shocked. I thought we would have, 3, maybe 6 people. I am really stunned. I am truly stunned at the breadth of this, and it can't be this much of a mistake. If it is, then the people who are in charge really need to do some self-inspection and just come to terms with the fact that they aren't able to do the job. That's not an easy thing to do, but I've had to do it. Jack, I bet you had to do it. I think there's a point in every person's life, like, as much as I'd love to do it, I can't. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you pretend that you can and you're hurting people in the process, that's dangerous.
Extremely dangerous. What steps do you believe we should be taken to prevent these issues from happening in the future, right?
I would love to be able to impart some sage wisdom on this. But it would be hypocritical because I was no more prepared for this Thursday morning than I am now. I've paid the bills that they send. The only difference I'm having now is I'm chasing them down. And every time I call, I get a different amount. Every time I log on to the account, I get a different amount. So you can't really rely on the information that you're getting. So what I would tell people is, obviously what's going to happen, the city wants to cheapen the situation. So when you do not receive a bill and you need to call the city, because the first thing the city wants to say is, oh, you just don't want to pay the bill.
That's right.
And that's them kind of shirking the responsibility off. Like, well, it's not us, it's you. You just don't want to pay the bill. Well, I got news for everyone. No one wants to pay a utility bill. However, it's the adult thing to do, and we all recognize that it's part of life, right? So let's get that out the way. No one wants to do it, but we need to do it.
That's right.
I'm not going to let my family endure this 100-degree heat on a matter of principle. It's not like I can move my home, so you're stuck. You got to pay it. Now, the other thing that people can do, start printing your records, because the things that I have been waiting for is the city to start changing records on me. So print your records, get your meter readings, and compare them to your bills. And make sure what you're paying for is exactly what you're getting.
And you know, Tommy, when you say that, there's so many people that can't even access their bills. They don't get bills. You follow me there? They don't get them. And then, you know, if you did have access to the system, you know, they block your access to getting into the system. So, you know, I understand what you're saying, and I really hope folk are paying attention to that, because, you know, when you're dealing with people with integrity, you expect that what you saw a few minutes ago is going to be what you saw, what you see when you go log in onto tomorrow. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's a true statement, that you're going to see what you saw yesterday when you log in again.
Well, the other thing is to do what your mama told you and mine taught me. It's the squeaky wheel who gets the oil. So if everyone starts contacting the Louisiana Attorney General, Consumer Fraud Division, the state police, the Office of Inspector General, then at some point somebody's going to be like, enough. What is going on in Alexandria? But I can tell you what's not going to work. I was kind of disheartened to hear this. The city council can't do anything. I called the city council member, and I was told that the mayor's office has issued a directive telling city employees not to speak to city council members. And now I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't read it, but I can tell you that's what I've been told. So if that's really what's going on, then it's not like the city council can do anything. So the other option is, and I've watched this, is we'll call the mayor's office. Call them. Make appointments. You know, they can't ignore all of us. And if they do, fine, start showing up. File your complaints. But this problem is not going away, Mr. Mayor. You're going to have to do your job. You wanted this job. You campaigned for it. You wanted it. Well, now you got it, and here's the problem.
Here's the problem.
Now, if you're not willing to do anything about it, I suspect a court will. The difference is you're probably not going to like what the court does. I can tell you that that's not a threat, Jack. I can just tell you every litigant, none of them are really happy with whatever a court decides, because you don't have any control. It's all in the hands of the judge. So maybe he or the administration can resolve this problem. I don't think anybody's asking for something unreasonable. Give the bills.
How can the community support you and others who might be facing similar problems with utility department? What is it that the community can do right now to help support you? If it's just picking up the phone and saying, hey, I have a problem. I mean, that supports you with numbers and different things of that nature. So what's your thoughts on that?
Good neighbors are kind of hard to find sometimes. And if your neighbor's power has been cut, maybe let them use your refrigerator or freezer, ice chest, because in the throes of that dilemma, right, like a kind word isn't going to do anything. Making phone calls, it's an emergency situation. So maybe be available to help people. And if it has happened to you, it's okay to ask for help. That's part of a community, right? Ask for help. If you have been wronged by the city, talk to your your politician, whoever it is, your council person, maybe the state needs to deal with this.
Mhm.
Maybe the best thing that could happen, in my opinion, would be for the Louisiana Public Service Commission to have jurisdiction again over all utilities.
Mhm.
You know, Governor Landry wants a constitutional convention. He wants a new constitution. Well, that should be one of them, because what has been going on here isn't working. Self-regulation just doesn't work. Did it work for Boeing?
No.
No. What about the airline industry? Absolutely not. It just never works. People aren't going to police themselves. So,
what message do you have for the city officials responsible for overseeing the utility billing practices here in Alexandria? And in our case, because of the role that the council play, that they play the role of the Louisiana Public Service Commission. So what do you have to say to them?
well, under the charter, it's the city council that's in the position of authority. Just because Mr. Roy or whoever the mayor may be says we don't want you talking to the city council, it doesn't mean you have to deal with that. You don't have to accept that. Stand up, take a stand, and do your job. People are hurting. People are hurting. What else do you need to hear to do what's right? If you're not capable of doing what's right, step aside. Step aside. It's that simple.
Tommy, I'm going through the comments right now, and the one thing that people, you know, throughout this thing, you know, when you get offline, make sure you go to this post, and it might be comments out there that you might want to throw in. I mean, everything from "I'm sick of Alexandria" to Mr. Davenport, you have most of Alexandria behind you. You know, this thing called the restore, you know, people are talking about that restore thing that tons of people say they didn't even ask for, but it ended up showing up on their bills. How can we join the lawsuit? So if people want to get in contact with you, how can they make that step, Tommy? Go ahead and tell us.
So if you haven't been receiving bills and you're in the same kind of pickle that I was in, you're welcome to give me a call. It's area code 318-445-9696. I can assure you that it's going to take some time for us to process all this, but we are looking at all of it. Our phone, I think the phone lines are kind of glowing at the office because of the calls we've been receiving, which I'm really not happy about, right? I mean, that's a sad thing. It's not a thing to be happy about. It's really a sad thing. You know, it's my assistant and I. We only have 4 hands, right, between the two of us. So we're gonna do what we can. If you're comfortable with emailing versus calling, secretary@davenportfirm.com.
Mm-hmm.
You can go to our website. It's www.davenportfirm.com. Mm-hmm. There's another attorney who I have a lot of respect for in the Pineville area. I don't want to mention his name right now because he's probably not equipped for all these calls as well. But he and I are also we're teaming up on this. We have also reached out to 2 other attorneys in Alexandria to address this. We want to help. We need to get this together. We need to get it fixed. I hope we can get it fixed without litigation in a lawsuit, but I am definitely willing to go there. So I wish there was something else. I mean, we've had so many calls. I wish I was a millionaire and I could pay these people's bills for them. And I just really wish I could. And I have in the past. I really have. But the problem is if the city won't tell you what you owe, I don't know how that can happen.
Our city council should be our platform to raise issues. However, with the recent events, it has been made clear they do not want to hear us. if you're following, this is a comment that came directly from one of the listeners to us tonight. So, as an attorney, what advice do you give the public when you know your constituents are supposed to be engaged in their government, and you have an administrator, the mayor's office, does a press a briefing to his employees, um, and he doesn't take questions from the general public or media for that matter. And then you have a council that's basically doing the same thing. Won't answer basic questions. You know, having people arrested, for just asking simple questions. What do you recommend as an attorney?
Well, that's kind of a simple one. Recall.
Hmm.
Recall. I mean, you can't make someone listen. You can't make someone, it's like that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. Well, you can if you take enough blood out of the horse. Okay. And what I'm saying is, if some of these people, I think the problem that we experience in this community is when someone gets in office, that person pretty much becomes petrified from being in office so long. So they look at it as, well, this is my seat now. And the problem is, until people hold them accountable, then I guess that's true. So if we give an ultimatum to the city, we want this fixed, you have 60 days to fix it, or 45 days, or whatever the community decides. And after that, we're going to start a recall on them. That's going to get their attention, because you're putting the politician in a self-preservation mode. If I'm going to, get everybody to buy my lunch and laugh at all my jokes, then I have to do my job, or I'm going to get recalled. I suspect they're going to get to work. If I were a councilman, and I don't want to be, and I had a mayor saying, oh no, I'm not going to let people discuss any city business with you, there is no way I would be good with that. No way. No way would I. And if you are, then obviously you're not a leader. The definition of a leader is someone who can enforce an unpopular decision. Do not tolerate it. Put your foot down. What is Jacques Roy going to do? Fire everybody with the city? Oh, you talk to a council person, I'm going to fire you? Well, he doesn't get to have that say because of civil service, something which I know he's not that crazy about. But hold their feet to the fire.
It looks like in general through a lot of these questions, this thing called restore was another thing that it seems like comment after comment, I didn't apply for restore, yet this thing called restore was on it. And I've never gotten a definition of what it really meant, but that's something that seems to be a common comment that I've heard tons and tons of times last year, and then there are people saying it over here still to this day. One lady said, I've paid mine off. I paid this thing restore off that I didn't know anything about. Some people say they had this thing called restore, and whatever they gave them, they took it back from them, and that kind of thing. So that seems to be and I know you haven't had an opportunity to look at it for comment on it, but it's probably something worth drilling down on to see what is restore and what these folk are meaning by it was on my account, but I didn't apply for whatever this thing was.
Wow. I've noticed that a lot of politicians will create these kind of programs, and no one really knows what the programs do except very few people. And I always feel that way about them, because I've heard of restore, and I don't know anyone who's had the benefit of it. I've heard it's supposed to be a grant. Well, a grant is not something you pay back. So I don't know. But again, I don't know what the terms and the conditions are of restore. if you're supposed to pay your bill or something and you're not getting it, and that's what determines your qualifications, I don't know what good it's going to do.
What good is it going to do? Yeah, absolutely.
If it's a true program that helps some people, I am all for it. I really am.
Yeah.
But the money that the city is about to lose over fighting this kind of nonsense with people is going to offset whatever good that is doing, and that's not a good thing. That's not something to brag about.
No. And unfortunately, we tie a lot of our resources up into litigation here in the city of Alexandria because, the folk who are using all of that litigation is not their money that they're spending. It's the people's money. And they don't have a problem with it. And so, and that's why, when you start attacking that marginalized community and you say, hey, just take them to court. Well, hell, they can't even pay the bills at the end of the day. And so, this concept of taking somebody to court, well, if you're in power and you're abusing power, you're not going to have a problem in that manner. You're just going to have people who are going to just end up complying.
Jack, you're a very wise man because litigation is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you get some lawyer who might not be the best business person and takes cases to help people, you still have court costs, which is very expensive. You have deposit. I mean, just the hard cost of litigation can be a lot.
Right.
And you're right. The city just gets to use taxpayer money. It's monopoly money to them. It's play money. So they don't have any skin in the game. And here's the real bad thing: almost always in any kind of litigation, except federal court, if you get a judgment against the city, they don't even have to pay it.
Wow.
I mean, they just don't. That's the law, which is ridiculous. So you can win and you just get a nice piece of paper that says you won.
Wow.
So it just seems to me that unless this really gets fixed, we might need to get someone else behind the wheel.
Yeah, exactly.
And Jack, I'm just gonna point this out. My office is downtown, and I drive pretty much to the other side of town. I started counting the buildings that used to be businesses, and they were shuttered, closed.
Right.
We are losing residents here. If you compare the census before and the one now, it looks like we lost, a good bit, about 10,000 people, and we didn't have that much to lose. We were only like at 50,000 maybe.
Mm.
And then the businesses are losing. This comment, this show, the news, the commentary from the people, it gets out in the world as it should. So you got to ask yourself, if you had a business, would you come to Alexandria where they can't even get their utilities straight? I mean, I'm telling you, I've been thinking, well, it's just one hop over to the river, go to Pineville. You don't hear about Pineville having these problems. I know Clico, gets it on the chin from time to time. Maybe they deserve it, maybe they don't. But I understand that they have these meters that, I don't know if you want to call it transmit or email, so they don't need meter readers, and the bills, are out there.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that the city has a horde of these type of meters, but they just lack the wherewithal to connect them. They don't know how to do it, or there's some limitation to the software, which is something that should have been considered before they purchased it. But this does not seem to be that terrible of a problem. I mean, I don't remember this being a problem in the 80s or the 90s. I mean,
well, in the 80s and the 90s, we weren't really the city had a tax base at that time. We had a thriving shopping environment throughout the city. We had in the 80s, 90s, we had a military base that was turning over tons of tax dollars with our local merchants and different things of that nature. We had a huge employee base at that time. But, we have consistently lost tons of, organization companies that paid well above a living wage. England Air Force Base, AT&T, Dresser, International Paper. The list just goes on and on and on. And we've done nothing to replace those type of businesses. And what we saw is we had decent utilities back in that time. We weren't as dependent upon it. We had some of the best utilities in the state of Louisiana at that point because we had a thriving environment. We had a thriving community. And so we were growing. But now all of that's gone. What did we do? We just jerked up or we raised those utility rates to compensate the differences. And who's it impacting? It's impacting the marginalized community. So, it's kind of, it's really, I thought I was going to be feeling really energetic and all of that kind of good stuff talking to you tonight, Tommy, but, it's just really depressing when you think about how bad this situation is in our city.
It is.
And you bring Pineville up and you see Pineville growing right now, and Pineville doesn't have a dependency on a utility system to operate. They are operating the city off of what cities were intended to operate off of, and that is sales tax, property taxes, and different things of that nature. I say to Pineville, taxes is a good thing in that scenario, because look at the growth, look at the jobs. I'm not going to say they're perfect and all that kind of good stuff, but they are running the city on what it was intended to be ran off of. That's just my thoughts.
Look, I agree with you.
And I will say that those are my. I'm not trying to get into the political realm or anything like that, but it is what it is. You go look at Pineville's budget; they are making the majority of everything is coming from sales and property taxes. And in Alexandria, that's just not the same. That's not a true statement. Looking forward, Tommy, before we get out of here, looking forward, what are your hopes? At the end of the day, what are you hoping that's going to come out of you fighting, the folks getting behind you, and all of that kind of good stuff? People having someone they can call and chime in, be a part of, and that kind of thing. What do you hope? What do you really hope at the end of the day?
Well, I hope that the city can find that 7-year-old girl with the lemonade stand who was down the street and ask her to be a consultant, because let me be serious. Look, send a bill for the utilities each month. If you want the money for the utilities, send the bill. If you don't send the bill, don't expect to get paid. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, I think if the city were to do this, right, then that would create efficiency, right? And if they need some advice on how to be efficient, look, there are a lot of places out there that can provide that. When you become efficient with what you do, you save money. And maybe if the city becomes more efficient and wise with the property, the utility expenses and so forth, maybe the bills will go down. Maybe, that's something that I'm kind of hoping for. But I mean, surely you cannot expect to not send bills, not get paid, and then all of a sudden expect someone down the street, Mrs. Jenkins, to carry the whole city because, she got her bills, so she needs to come with her money. I mean, it's not fair. They can break it up. The city should also recognize that it's too expensive to live here and we're not getting anything in return. We're just not. I mean, so maybe the city needs to consider reducing the utilities. Not some program that no one understands, but reducing it. Becoming a little more wise with how they spend money and what they do. Efficiency is important.
Sure.
And if they don't know how to do that, well, maybe sell the utility division, sell it off to somebody. I mean, I'm not one for privatization, but obviously this is the first instance to where I remember where the government just can't handle it.
Right. Tommy, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and shedding light on this important issue. Your efforts are not just about correcting a wrong, but also about ensuring transparency and accountability for the future. We hope that through your actions and the support of the community, we can see positive change and folk get the justice that they deserve. To all our followers, we want to thank you for tuning in and supporting our mission to educate and inform the community. Please continue to share and engage with our content. We also like to extend a big gratitude to our advertising partners, Sadler's Towing, Long's Preferred Products, National Tire and Auto, and Math Makes Sense. Your support make this possible. Until the next time, stay informed and stay engaged.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome, Tommy. Anytime. Just hang tight. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream.
Yes, sir.